What's good? Welcome back to Black and Published, a podcast for writers, poets, playwrights, and storytellers of all kinds. I'm your host, Nikisha Elise Williams, an award-winning author, 2-time Emmy Award-winning producer, publisher, all that good stuff. Today, we're talking with Jeneé Darden, author of When a Purple Rose Blooms. Jeneé Darden is an Oakland native. She has reported for NPR, Time Magazine, the Los Angeles Times, Ebony, Huffington Post, the Southern Poverty Law Center's Teaching Tolerance magazine, and more. The National Book Foundation awarded Jeneé a summer writing fellowship in 2003. And her first book, When a Purple Rose Blooms, is a collection of poetry and essays about Jeneé's experience with Black womanhood, published by Nomadic Press in 2018. Jeneé is passionate about African American erotic art and women's sexual empowerment. She wrote a groundbreaking thesis called Under the Covers: The Popularity and Debate Over Black Erotic Literature. Another passion of hers is mental health awareness. She is the former host of the podcast Mental Health and Wellness Radio, which earned her a New America Media Award for outstanding community reporting for radio. And she's featured in the anthology We've Been Too Patient: Voices from Radical Mental Health, which was published by Penguin Random House. Jeneé blends her passion for journalism and hip voice on her website and podcast, Coco Fly. Frustrated with the lack of diverse stories on women and people of color, Jeneé covers women, race, sexuality, wellness, and much more. The daughter of former O.J. Simpson prosecutor Christopher Darden, Jeneé holds a BA in Ethnic Studies from UC San Diego and a master's degree in journalism from the University of Southern California. She is a member of Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated and the National Association of Black Journalists. In this conversation, we discuss growing up insecure while absorbing and being affected by colorism, writing from the heart on mental health and wellness, the burdens Black women need to put down, and growing up with what became an infamous last name. Black and Published family, welcome Jeneé to the show. Thank you, Jeneé, for joining me on Black and Published today. You're very, very welcome. I always like to start the podcast by asking my guests, when did you know that you were a writer?
That's a great question. I think I knew I was a writer when I was really little, and I wrote a paper. I was like maybe in third grade or something. And maybe even a little older, maybe sixth grade. But I wrote a paper for class. Yeah, I would say sixth grade. And I wrote a paper and I had my mom look at it, and she made these changes that I didn't quite agree with to the paper. And so, but I was like, she's a grown up, she knows best. So I turned in the paper, and my teacher was like, why didn't you do X, Y, Y, Z? And I said, well, I did. And I said, my mom changed it. And she was like, don't listen to your mom. She's like, she's like, you know what you're doing. And so I think then I kind of was like,
Okay. So then how did that then take you into your career as a journalist and a writer? Like, did that was that the spark for you in third grade, or did you have to go back and forth between what you wanted to do, or was that just it?
Well, I had started journaling when I was 7, so I liked writing from an early age. And then, I kind of, for a while, it was either I was going to be a therapist or a journalist. It was one of the two. Luckily, with what I do, because I do a lot of stories on mental health, I've been able to merge the two. But as I got older, like I always was interested, I wanted to write for the school paper. I was the editor of the yearbook. So I was always interested in some type of journalism and media. When I was little, my grandmother, I asked her to buy me a recorder for, it was either Christmas or my birthday. And so I was going around, interviewing people in the, in the family, just recording people. So I always had this interest in it for a long time.
Okay, so then how did that take you through school, and so like where did you land in like your first career where you were writing and doing that work?
So the first journalism gig, if you will, I had was, I believe when I was in college, I had interned at a interior decorating magazine. So that was like my first time working in a magazine, or just in journalism. And after I did that, I liked it. I knew I didn't want to do interior design, but I liked working at a magazine or just working in media. And so after I left there, and then but I still was kind of on the fence about what I wanted to do. So I graduated. Then I was teaching. I was a TA, excuse me, for elementary school. And because then at that time I was like, okay, I either teach or like write or something. And teaching is it's a great profession. And shout out to all the teachers, but I knew it wasn't for me. And so then while I was working as a TA, I would write for small publications in the Bay Area. And that's where I was like, I want to do this. I definitely want to do this. So then I went to journalism school. I went to USC in Los Angeles. So I moved from the Bay back down to Southern California. And and I went to journalism school. And then from there, after I finished journalism school, I got my master's in journalism. And then I went to work for NPR on a national level. I was a producer for a show called News and Notes, which was like, did stories on African Americans. And so I did that for a while. And then I worked for Marketplace, which does personal finance. I've had so many different beats over the years. But and then it led me to where I am now.
And so like you have this hard news trained background with producing for NPR. I did television production, so I kind of know what that life is like. Because we had a radio component, a talk radio component, and have been doing all these hard news beats, but yet your writing, your book is creative because it's fiction, and I mean it's poetry and essays, but then you also have pieces in anthologies and things like that I guess kind of pursue that creative avenue. So what is your preference? Is it the journalism and like the hard hitting heavy newsy type of stuff, or is it more of the creative aspect?
The great thing about the work I do in radio, so right now I work for an NPR affiliate in the Bay Area called KALW. And we have longer pieces than maybe what you would hear on NPR, and our sound is different, even though it's an NPR affiliate. And so like it's more infused with sound, more infused with music. And so I can weave in that creativity as far as how I package it while still putting in the facts and the information. So I can do both. I have to do both for me, as far as like I need the creative outlet. But I need to write about the facts, and sometimes I need a break from news, and I just need to write poetry and and read lots of fiction. And I interview artists too, so I get to read a lot of fiction and take that in. So I like both. I like both. Yeah, but I like that I can weave in the creativity side into my news production.
So has poetry always been like your go-to creative outlet?
It's been one of them. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And for a while when I was in journalism school, because I was so fixed on trying to master the craft of journalism writing, it was hard for me to even write poetry. Like I would just try, and my brain was just like, no, you need to work on news. And so it was where I missed it. And then after I finished journalism school, moved back to the Bay Area where I'm from. And then I started just really writing poetry again and getting into the poetry scene up here.
And so what does that do for you when you're writing your poems, and you said getting into the poetry scene, so I assume you're going to cafes and performing or doing stuff like that. What does it do
Yeah,
for you?
and curating. I curate events too. I mean, it's therapeutic. Um, I'll journal if I just kind of need to get stuff off, out of my system, or, and then sometimes I'll write poetry. And the great thing about poetry too is that, it reaches other people too as well. So like when you read poetry, in cafes, or if I read from the libraries or whatever, or book festivals, just to see how it reaches people, just to see how like you putting your emotions on that page, your thoughts on the page creatively. And then, yes, you don't have to deal with the journalism rules, right? And so you can be as creative and just out of the box with it. And then when you read it and then other people may resonate, it's really, really beautiful.
So I'm reading through your book. I'm about halfway through When a Purple Rose Bloomed. Tell me how that collection came together, because it's poetry and then it's essays and it's kind of like your reflections. So how did you piece that together?
I was working on pitching another book and I wasn't getting any traction with it. And so, and I have been writing poetry for a while. I mean, this book is probably about maybe 20 years in the making. I just didn't know I was making a book when I was writing all these pieces. And I was talking to a mentor and he said, Jeneé, he's like, you have all this poetry and he said, you blog too. And, he said, you've written so much stuff. He was like, why don't you just put that all into a book? And I was like, oh, I didn't think about that. Sometimes you don't realize what you got, you think you don't have enough and it's all right there in front of you. And so I put that all together in this book.
And so it came out in 2018 from Nomadic Press, which is an independent and like nonprofit publishing company. So how does that work?
It's a small press in Oakland. And the great thing about Nomadic, I know a mainstream publisher would have published this book because it is, it's poetry and essays. And so I love Nomadic Press because they're so willing to take risks. And we have such a diverse range of authors. We have authors of color. We have authors who are trans. We have authors who are queer. We have authors who are disabled. We have authors who are, elderly. I mean, the publisher, they're willing to take a risk and put voices out of people who are marginalized and whose voices you don't hear often in literature.
So it sounds like it was a very collaborative process to publish When a Purple Rose Blooms, and not just, turning your manuscript and we give you a release date and we take it through a bunch of edits.
No, and the thing is, they host events in Oakland, so they knew me, so they knew my work too as well. So yeah, it wasn't like the tradition. I mean, I still had to submit something, and they're not just going to publish, anyone and anything, but you still got to come with it. But just the fact that they're so open minded to who they publish is really wonderful.
In reading some of the pieces in the book, you're very open about your youth, your childhood, growing up in Oakland, the girl with the pink bedroom. I love that. I love the references to your grandmother who had the hair salon, the laundry room. And so Avon from the kitchen table, both of my grandmothers had hair salons in their laundry room. So I was like, oh, I know that kind of grandmother. And then, but also you're also open about your insecurities or, just the burden that Black women carry. I think I was reading through one and my question became, what is God to a Black woman, or who or what is God to a Black woman? So what kind of informed the poems that you've put into this book?
Just life, and you said so much of it. When I was growing up, I was dealing with a lot of issues with colorism. It affected me mentally. I was bullied, and it affected me for a long time, from I would say middle school to the end of high school. I wasn't bullied in high school, but definitely middle school I was bullied, and so it broke me. And I carried this self-hatred. I didn't want to be white. I wanted to be light. I wanted to look like Vanessa Williams. I wanted to look like Jasmine Guy. If I was a young woman today, well, I mean, I'm still am, but 20 something, I may want to look like Zendaya, right? Today I want to look like Zendaya. And so I carried that, and I didn't like the way I looked. And then because I didn't like the way I looked, I didn't like who I was. And so, and it caused me to have depression, mental health. And I write a lot about mental health issues. Mental health runs in the family too, as well. So that's where I may have picked some of that up. But yeah, so that all came out, that insecurity, that struggling to self-love, that all came out in different ways and in different, through different phases of my life. And yeah.
I think that jumps off the page from the first poem, Self-Esteem. I finished that first stanza and I was like, nope, I'm not dealing with Jeneé today. I'm going to put this book down and I'm going to come back to this another day because the line, her daddy split right after the doctor said it's a girl. I was like, not today. I can't do this. Not in the headspace. But then as I got through that poem and continued reading the last line of that poem, because when looking for self-esteem, where does one begin? I was like, oh, here we go. And you talk about mental health and you talk about, all the things that try to break Black women. It's like the world wants to see Black women bowed, but we refuse to do so. And I feel this like undergirding of pain beneath the poems and the essays. And I just wanted to know, was that intentional or was that just you just had to get it off your chest and put it out there?
I mean, it was both. It was just I'm writing from the heart. I'm writing from the heart, and that poem was inspired by, I don't know if you remember, several years ago, it was an incident at a public school in Delaware where these girls were fighting over a boy, and in the girls' bathroom, and one of the girls, she hit the other one, and then she hit her head on the sink, and she died from that. And I wrote about that poem. I wrote that poem because people were saying they just need self-esteem. They need self-esteem. And I was like, yeah, you need self-esteem, but something else is going on, right? It's deep. Why do you have such, strong validation that you would be violent, and jump somebody over a boy? And so that was what inspired that piece. As far as where do you look for self-esteem, and that's why I was like, is it in beauty cream? Is Oprah giving away their favorite things? Do I get at the swap meet? It's like, what?
You said the sloss and swap meet. I about died. I said, oh, she's funny.
It is a funny piece, but but yeah, it's just like, where am I supposed to get? Because it's deeper than that, right? I was like, self-esteem, yeah, that's an issue. But if you're in a world that's constantly trying to invalidate you, it's a larger issue.
Yeah, another one that struck me is My Strength, where you're making the connection that Black women aren't strong because they necessarily want to be, but because they have to be, which makes me want to ask you, what is the future? What does it look like where the world is a soft place for Black women to land?
That's a great question. I think for that to happen, in part, is Black women putting ourselves first. And I'm glad I'm seeing that. I'm seeing more of that, I think, since, Breonna Taylor was killed, as far as being more vocal about, Black women needing to be protected. And I think, I've been saying for a long time, we can't wait for anybody to save us, but Black women. And I know we've looked to, maybe like more of a white feminist movement. I know we've looked to Black men, and that's not to say they haven't had some kind of role too in helping us as well. But I think, Black women, we have to start putting ourselves first and acknowledge. And I'm seeing more of that. We're having more of those conversations. And so, like, I remember, Meg Thee Stallion, she performed at Saturday Night Live, and she put stuff up about Black women. So I'm happy to see, especially younger Black women saying, hey, we need to practice self-care. I love what the sister's doing, the Nat Bishop, where, she's talking about resting. I'm hearing sisters talking about rest, and we need to rest because we've been working
tired.
For centuries. We've been working hard and carrying the weight. And so I think for us to get to a place where things can soften, unfortunately, yes, society, we're going to have to fight. But I think we need to start with us and, putting ourselves first. You don't have, people calling you, asking to do all kind of stuff. You can say no, you can say no. And speaking up about, we're seeing a lot of racial violence. It's not just targeting brothers, it's targeting us too. And we need to acknowledge it does not mean we don't love Black men, and to acknowledge the issues that we have doesn't mean we don't love Black men, but we need to speak up for ourselves and the things that are hurting us so that we can have wellness and health and peace of mind and rest and can sleep at night.
And I think that comes across in your piece, Warriors in Dresses,
Mhm.
which in I was like, as I was reading it, I was like, oh, I know these women, and you can talk about the church suits and the hats and the press and curl and all that, but it's even in all of that, or even in the do-rags and being service workers as in maids and cooks and all of that, whatever the case may have been, Black women have always been the foundation of the Black liberation movement, no matter what form it's taken, civil rights, Black power, whatever. But the men always are in the forefront. And so I felt like that was a commentary on that as well,
Yeah.
especially with you being from Oakland. So it's like, Black power was all around you.
The Black Panther movie. Yeah, I mean, and to say that there's power in the feminine, and yeah, Big Mama is powerful, and yeah, Big Mama is going out there getting votes and getting voters and rallying people, and or just thinking about the back in the day, when people in the civil rights movement were traveling, you had women cooking while they're traveling, they would go to the house and women, because somebody needs to feed them, right? I mean, that's part of the movement, and yeah, and there were people behind the scene. They couldn't speak at certain events because they were women, but they were organizing these events back in the day. And so, yeah, there's power in the feminine, like you say, in the do rag. Even in Atlanta with the voting, the strippers were doing ads and stuff on Facebook and trying to get people to vote. I mean,
That's
that's
power.
that's that's power, and so just honoring that. So yeah, the church suit lady, the sister on the pole, whatever, they do the work.
So in owning your power and accepting your feminine, but also being mindful that you need to care for yourself, how are you putting yourself first?
Definitely, and that was something I had to work through, because I was, uh, especially with my grandparents when they were sick, and I was one of their caretakers, and so that's when I really realized how the importance of putting yourself first. And that's not saying, not taking care of them, but like I was helping to take care of them. And I wasn't their sole caretaker, but I was helping to take care of them. And then I was working a full-time job. So I was getting requests at my job for things to do when you should have said no, or maybe just asked for a break. But I was trying to be superwoman, this this person on the cover. That's why the boots are off, because I'm tired. So,
That makes so much sense.
that's why it's like I'm hanging up that suit. But yeah, just for me, just learning how to say, no, like I need to rest. I need to take a break. I can't do that. I need to ask for help. I used to have a lot of pride. My grandfather had to pull me aside and say, stop being so prideful. And if you need help, just ask for it. And so those things have helped me be better at taking care of myself and not feeling shame for asking for help, or just saying, right now I'm weak. Right now I need support.
Yeah, I think it's hard for women and Black women especially to learn that no is a complete sentence and that asking for help is okay. Like those two things, I feel like are our Achilles heel. Like we can say no and it be all right, and whoever thinks it's not all right, that's a them issue, not an us issue. And then asking for help, because we are often portrayed as superwomen and larger than life and these magical Negroes who never need help or
Right.
anything like that. And I mean, that's even in the narrative in media when you look at, Scandal. We didn't see her broken very often. She was
Right.
always saving the day.
Right.
So I
But
think,
then drinking a gallon of wine at home, right?
yes, and the biggest glasses. All right, so we've been talking about this book. I want you to read something from it. I'm going to tee it up with the description and then I'm going to let you take it away. So,
Mhm.
When a Purple Rose Blooms is a womanist collection of poetry and essays that reflect writer Jeneé Darden's journey through Black womanhood. Through heart and humor, Darden engages us in conversations about race, love, sex, and mental health. Like a rose, being a Black woman in this society comes with its thorns and beauty. Darden brings that complexity to every page. Go ahead.
Self-esteem. Men been leaving her since she entered the world. Her daddy split right after the doctor said, "It's a girl." Her first boyfriend left her for Alexis. Her second boyfriend left her for Dallas, Texas. Her third boyfriend left her for Travis. Her fiance left her for the bottle and the nice girl on 85th with the blonde weave. All she knew about men were they lied, they leave, and their hearts had a short attention span for her love. "What's wrong with me?" she cried to her friends. "What's wrong with me?" "Girl," they say, You just need some self-esteem. Huh? Self-esteem? Where do you get that? She asked. Is it something you buy off the rack? Do they sell it at Big Lots next to discounted baby fat? Self-esteem. Does it come in a lotion bottle or a jar like beauty cream? Has Oprah given away her favorite things? Can I get it at the Slauson Swap Meet or Durant Square? Is it easy to put on like a clip in my hair? Wait, hold up, hold up. Do it come with my Obamacare? Do I eat it? Do I wear it? Do I hang it on the wall? Is it available year round, winter, spring, summer, fall? Is it free? Do I have to pay? Don't play. Does it fall from the sky or grow from the ground? Maybe mine is in some lost and found. Is it something I can hold? Will it make me feel good? Do they make it for rich girls and us girls in the hood? Is there a commercial for it, a jingle, a song? Can I order it from Amazon? Get some self-esteem. You make it seem easy, she said to her friends. You make it sound like it's the answer without a doubt. But how is self-esteem the key in a world that constantly tries to lock Black women out? Now, this is where the poem ends, because when looking for self-esteem, where does one begin? This piece is called Joy. When times get tough, I go hard on getting joy. Call the girls to go out, play Janelle Monáe. Electric ladies cruise to rooftop parties, drink Bacardi, sip on some goose at the family beach barbecue, kissing the new babies, dancing to 90s hip hop and flip flops, Cupid shuffle, electric slide, see my cousin pull up in his new ride, give him the Wakanda salute, check out the friend he brought, oh, he's really cute. Touch up my Fenty gloss, sachet in my African skirt, flash a bright smile, I'm ready to flirt. Blue skies, golden sand, sun rays glowing on my skin. Thanking God for the melanin, nappy hair. I care for loving me in braids, weave, and afro. Gotta carry the self-love everywhere I go. Essence Fest to Paris, Comic Con to Johannesburg, Saturday nights on the Vegas Strip to Sunday mornings, learning the word. After service, visit Grandma Jean for girl talk and her spicy collard greens. She slices soft, warm cornbread with a crispy bottom crust, love baked in an iron cast skillet. I don't take these moments for granted. Living with attitude and gratitude, I'm queening. Only caring about what I think, I'm queening. Living my best life despite the strife, I'm queening. Accepting I stand out in the crowd while keeping my mama proud, I'm queening. Not gonna let this world keep me down. I'm queening, I'm queening, I'm queening.
You better. You better be out here queening.
Yes, 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 ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So where I stopped is the essay Growing Up Darden. So, and since you included it and it's a line in your bio, I have to ask, when all that kicked off in 94 with the O.J. Simpson case and your dad and all of that, where were you in your life and how did it affect you?
I was in high school. I was in high school then. I think I was like a sophomore, or I was going into my junior year. And the way it affected me, it was hard. It was a very hard time because I was, I grew up in Oakland. I grew up specifically in East Oakland. So I was attending a predominantly Black and Latino, Latinx high school. And so, so you have, people, they knew people had been mistreated by the police. And so, there was some anger. Luckily, the students I went to school with, they didn't agree with what my father was doing, but they knew me. They were able to put, to make two distinctions, which I'm so grateful for. And some people said some snide remarks, but it was hard seeing the way he was treated in the media. And for a while, it turned me off to journalism. That's kind of why I was on the fence for a while going into journalism, because I saw with how the media was reacting. I mean, that was like the beginning of like the 24-hour news cycle. And so, I was getting calls on my phone, and I was in high school. I was getting calls from, I had a phone in my bedroom. And so I was getting calls from press wanting to do interviews, and I'm like 15, right? 15, 16. And yeah. And
you're a minor.
Right. And they were calling me for interviews.
And that's so unethical. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry. Continue.
My uncle's ex-wife, she sold my winter ball picture to the tabloids. So I was in the tabloids, and I was called like a secret love child, and I wasn't a secret. And my uncle, he was dying of AIDS, and they were trying to get into the hospital room and get interviews with him. So I just saw all this really unethical practices. And somebody called my grandparents and were like, how do you feel about your son dying of AIDS? I mean, so it was just really because they wanted to get an interview about it. So I just really saw a very nasty side of the media. And I was like, if that's what it takes to be a journalist, I was like, I don't know if I want to do that. But I tried other jobs. Like I said, I was a peer counselor in college. I worked as a TA, so I kind of was sampling different professions, and I still had this in this side was like do journalism and write, and so I did.
Do you think that because the truly ugly side of journalism, that so much of your work now kind of focuses on wellness and mental health in that space of the industry?
Not necessarily. The wellness and mental health comes from just my own struggles with wellness and mental health and stigma. So after, I had finished journalism school, I was working at NPR in LA and some other spots. And then I moved to the Bay Area because the market crashed. And so I was looking for a job, and I was like, I couldn't pay anybody to hire me for a job because, it was a recession. And so there was a nonprofit organization in Oakland that was funded by the county that addressed mental health issues. And so they needed somebody to work in their communications department. And so I applied for that job. And I ended up, and something you never hear, you worked in news. They're like, we got funding for a podcast. Here's the money. Do whatever you want. We just need you to make the podcast. We trust you.
Word? You lost me here. We got the money.
That too. We were funded through the county. Like, we got we have to make this deliverable. So, they're like, make it how you want. I was like, what? And so that's what I did. So that's where the mental health comes from, is me, my own issues. And when I did that podcast, I disclosed my mental health history. And because I said, I can't interview people about their mental health. It's not fair. I'm interviewing you about your mental health, for this podcast for the county, and I don't disclose. And
you're not being honest.
I didn't feel right doing that. And so I disclosed, and I learned so much working at that organization just about the mental health industry and working with people, who had mental health issues. And most of the people I worked with, they lived in Oakland. They were low income, people of color. So I worked with, a population, and these people were also, they were advocating for wellness. So they were advocates too, the people we serve. So I worked with a population that often does not get discussed about when it comes to mental health. So that's why I bring those stories in.
As you continue on and as a journalist and as a poet, how do you see your writing? Do you just see it as, what you do, and then there's the creative side, or is it just really just a part of you?
I would say it's a part of me. Yeah, it's. I feel like working in news, it's an honor to work in news. It's an honor that somebody trusts me to do a story. Like I'm working on a documentary, a radio documentary on a woman who, she's an abolitionist. She literally goes out in the streets in Oakland and rescues girls who are being sex trafficked.
Wow.
And so, it's a huge issue in our community, kind of going back to what we were saying about speaking up about things that are hurting us. We are sex trafficked at high numbers. And so the fact that somebody trusts me to tell me their story, and I translate and put that out into the world, for me, that's an honor and privilege. So for me, being a journalist is not something I do. I see it as a service that I feel blessed and fortunate to do. And poetry, the fact that, and I never thought like, oh, I would be a poet. I never just that never even came to mind. And so the fact that I can do that, and when people contact me because they read the book and something resonating with them, or somebody may have said, I read your book, and I'm not invincible. And I said, no, I'm not gonna do all of that. I'm not gonna, go do stuff for the church picnic and then, and work extra hours at the job if I don't have to, do all this. I said no to some things, or are arrested, and or just like, I felt your pain too. I dealt with colorism and whether somebody, they're light skinned or dark skinned, I dealt with colorism, and what you said resonate with me. So that makes me feel happy too, that whatever is in this book or whatever struggles I have, maybe some people have found some healing in me saying, you ain't the only one.
So what do you think will be next for you going forward in both arenas, creatively and in journalism?
Oh, well, it's funny because it's the pandemic, so that's keeping us busy. As far as far as reporting, um, next, I've been for creatively. I've been trying to think about what the next book would be about, and I don't know if I want to do something a little more Afrofuturistic, and blend it with social issues. Which I mean, a lot of sci-fi, Afrofuturism, all that good stuff is social issues in it anyway. So I'm kind of leaning towards that maybe the next book, that's collection. So that's kind of what I'm feeling. But I want to write a novel one day. It's not right now. It's not in my spirit to do it. It's like, it'll come to me like, I want to do this. So it hasn't come yet. In my head, I want to do it, but in my heart, that muse hasn't kicked in. Like, this is what you need to write about if you write a novel. So, so those are some of the things.
All right, I want to transition into a quick speed round before we get to the last question of the episode. So, what is your favorite book?
Oh my gosh. It's like, I don't have children. That's like trying to say pick your children. Oh, it's a hard question. I don't know what's my favorite. I can't answer that.
Give me your top 5.
Okay, I can do top 5. Song of Solomon. I love that book. Where the Sidewalk Ends, by Shel Silverstein, and you could see the influence in the poetry. Black Girl in Paris. I love that book. Any Maya Angelou, her collection of poetry. And let's see, what's number 5? I would say maybe Waiting to Exhale.
Terry McMillan.
Yeah, because definitely her work has had an influence on me. So those are some of my favorites. But yeah, it's many more.
And she's in the Bay Area too, correct?
She used to live here. I think she moved, but she was in the Bay Area for a long time. Yeah.
Yeah. Who is your favorite author?
Some of my favorites, again, Toni Morrison, Isabel Allende, Terry McMillan's works. I'm trying to think who else. Octavia Butler. I've been reading more of her, and I'm feeling her work right now. So those are some of my favorites.
What is your favorite superhero movie?
Ooh, that's a good one. Definitely Black Panther is up there because I still that's my therapy. That's my therapy. And I would say the first Batman with Michael Keaton, and I can't name one. And these are more nostalgic for me. And then Superman with Christopher Reeve. So
DC or Marvel?
Marvel. Definitely right now. Marvel's kicking butt. Right now is Marvel.
They are.
But I'm happy we got a Black Batwoman. I'm happy about that. I'm supporting.
Your favorite blues song?
My favorite blues song.
You said you like to dance to blues. I was like,
I do like to dance to blues. What's my favorite blues song? I can't think of my favorite blues song specifically. Right now, I'm a cheat. One of my favorite blues artists is out of Oakland. His name is Fantastic Negrito. And he's won the Blues Grammy a couple of times the last few years. And there's a song where he says, I keep on knocking, but I can't get in. And I resonated with that song for a long time because when I was trying to break through in the journalism, I was like, I'm knocking. But if listen to anything by Fantastic Negrito, anything by him, it's wonderful.
Legacy has a line like that on her second album in the song Knocking.
Oh, okay. And then she's from Oakland too. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Where was I in my questions? I went off on a whole.
You said blues.
Yes. So you say you love the color pink, hot pink or pale pink?
Hot.
What's the best thing about Oakland?
The culture.
Name
culture.
Name one Bay Area artist you think everyone should know.
Well, I just said Fantastic Negrito.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what's the biggest misconception people have about you when they realize who's your father?
What I've noticed from people is that because I didn't used to tell people for a long time because I didn't know how they were reacting. You know, we would get death threats. Um, oh yeah. And I've gotten some too.
Ooh.
What happens is that if I tell them, they're surprised because they're like, "I like you," and they're like, "You relate to who?" Or they're like, "But you black and you like black people," and so they're shocked that I love, I love black culture. I love our people, and then they're shocked that yeah. I've had people literally tell me, "I can't believe it because I like you and you're such a nice person." So yeah,
You just threw the casual death threat in there and I about fell out my seat.
yeah. I mean, yeah.
How have you overcome all of that? Because that sounds traumatic. Like, are you okay?
Thank you for asking
I
that.
know it was forever ago, but it keeps coming back up. It's
Yeah.
like with your essay about the people versus OJ Simpson on FX, and then there was the documentary. So I'm like, are you okay?
You know what? I am, and because I went to therapy, and he's done other cases where people have gotten mad, and so sometimes I get the brunt of it, and I think that's misogyny. I think it's just because like I'm out there, and I think because I'm a woman, it's misogynoir too. So I think sometimes I get attacked for things he does, um, but yeah, I went to a lot of therapy. I tell people it was the trial for me began after the verdict because then you go through something, and that's anybody go through trauma. You go through trauma, and then you got to sit with it. So I have therapy. I have supportive family. I have friends, and so when stuff like that pops off, I have people that have my back, and that emotionally and spiritually support me. But thank you for asking. Well, okay, you know, I just
You just threw the casual death threat. I'm like, that's not normal.
it's not normal. It's not. It's
That's
not.
just like that's not normal.
Yeah,
So
it's
like,
not.
what has been the biggest lesson you have learned in your own healing?
That's a great question. The biggest lesson I learned in my own healing is that this will pass, and learning to let go. Because I held on for a lot of stuff. I held on to a lot of stuff for a long time, and so it took me a long time from some of that stuff that happened. Because like I said, my trial began after the verdict, um, and so learning to let go, and let go, let God, release. Learn from the past and go forward, and and to accept that you were hurt, that pain may be totally 100% not gone, and maybe 2% left, and just acknowledging that, and having compassion with myself, and that helped with my healing tremendously. Is when I learned to just release.
How does all of that inform your writing? Because I noticed the undergirding of pain in it, and you talk about it from being younger, but then also this is a who you are and who you're related to, and what happened then also informs that too, as you just said. So how is all of that then poured into your writing that comes out on the page, creatively and in your work?
um hmm. Well, definitely with journalism, um dealing with the media, I definitely practice ethical reporting just because I know how it feels. People don't trust journalists and the media, and I know why personally. So I get it, and so I take being ethical as a journalist very seriously because I know how it is when you're misrepresented. And like I said, when I interview people, they're telling me their story. Or when I'm reporting a story, I'm putting information out to the public. And so I keep that in mind because I know what I went through when there was, lies and people selling photos and I'm a minor and, all that kind of stuff.
And they calling you on your bedroom phone.
Right. Calling me on my bedroom phone. Tell me, will you do an interview? Tell us about your daddy. I'm like, seriously. So yeah, if I ever give you a youth, I'm like, where are your parents? Your guardians. So that informs me. And just with the creative writing, as far as with the poetry, it's, feeling comfortable with what I want to disclose, and just and feeling the power of my own voice and having autonomy, I don't have to tell everything. There's some things I want to keep to myself. And I know we live in an age where people tell everything, it seems like people tell everything. But, I tell what I feel comfortable telling. I tell what I feel comfortable sharing. And just hoping that whatever I share and tell, it touches other people.
That's beautiful. So my last question for our interview today is, you are just a storyteller, whether it's through journalism, whether it's through your poetry, whether it's through your own personal essays. So when you're dead and gone, what would you like someone to tell about your legacy as a storyteller?
Wow, I've never been asked this question. I hope that they say that my stories were compelling. I hope that they say that my stories made a difference in people's lives, whether it's through, policy changes, whether it's through how we treat people who have mental health conditions or who are trauma survivors, whether it's through, her stories was part of, artistry and media that inspired to take care of themselves and to love themselves even more. I hope they see that the writing I did was a gift.
Amen. Thank you, Jeneé.
Thank you so much.
You are very, very welcome. Big thank you to Jeneé Darden for being here on Black and Published today. Make sure you check out her latest collection of poetry and essays, When a Purple Rose Blooms, out right now from Nomadic Press. And if you're not following Jeneé on the socials, please follow her. She's at Coco Fly on Twitter. That's COCOA Fly on Twitter. And again, Coco Fly on Instagram. But that one is COCA Fly. Coco Fly on Instagram. That's our show for the week. If you like this episode and want more Black and Published, which by now I think you should, go ahead and hit that subscribe button on your podcast platform of choice. While you're there, leave us a rating, a review, a comment. Tell us who you'd like to hear on the show next. You can also follow Black and Published at Black and Published on Twitter and Instagram. That's BLK and Published. And if you want to keep up with me, head to my website, newwrites.com, NEWWRITES.com. Or you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Nikisha_Elise. That's our show. I'll holler at y'all next week. Peace.